Hi there, knife people. Hello, lady and gentlemen. Tonight is the night. We're going to solve it once and for all. Is 1095 steel better for survival situation than a modern stainless super steel? Welcome to Cutting Board Reviews Paper Rock Scissors Edition. Contestant number 1, Rowan Izula 1095, and contestant number 2, Benchmade in S90V. Rock, some kind of quartz, I think. Paper. 2 very sharp knives. Look at that. Slicey. Hold on. Slicey. I promise it's sharp, but not for long. So a lot of my viewers say that you can resharpen Izula with a rock if you had to, out there, stuck in the wilderness. Well, if you can sharpen a knife with a rock, you can definitely dull the knife with a rock. And all I did here, I was just using the knife's own weights to swipe them over the rock, and here's the result. This one still kind of cuts. This one pretty much done for, maybe a little bit. But we're not testing the Izula because everybody knows you can sharpen it with a rock. We're testing the Benchmade, so make sure the Benchmade is the real dull one, as we just saw. And here comes the rock. Count the swipes. Doesn't take much. I'm gonna fill for a burr, and actually rock create a pretty decent burr right there. Okay, and let's do the same to the Izula. Just a few swipes here. Fill for the burr. A little bit off. And now I'm just gonna use my trouser belt. And it's not even leather. It's webbing. It's a heavy-duty webbing, a ratchet belt. Ladies and gentlemen, can you see that there is no abrasive compound on the belt? This is my regular, everyday, concealed carry ratchet belt made out of heavy-duty nylon. All right. Okay. We got some improvement. And the other one, yep, Izula cuts, little burr here and there. Let's stroke it again. Maybe this technique is better when I don't turn over every time. Leaves a little more heat and friction. Maybe. All right, let's try it. Okay, let's say it cuts. I think it cuts enough to feather the wood. And so does this knife. I could probably keep going, but the video will get very long, so here you go. Sharpening this knife and this knife took about the same amount of effort. I'm not saying that Izula is somehow a bad knife. I just think it's overpriced because ESEE pays Rowan their profit, then ESEE marks it up to the dealer, and then dealer marks it up to you. So instead of paying the manufacturer and the dealer, you're paying profit to a middleman, who is in this case ESEE. That's my biggest beef really with this knife. We should be paying $40 to $50 instead of $65 to. Sorry, I forgot to mention that Izula has a Rockwell hardness of 54 to 57, and S90V has a hardness of 59 to 62 HRC. Also, in my collection, I have this fixed bladed adamas in crew wear, and this sucker has Rockwell hardness of 64. So I want to see if a rock can sharpen that knife. It's coming up later. Stand by to see. Look at it jumping on the antler. It's an awesome knife. You are probably wondering, how can I talk about Izula being overpriced, where I am comparing it to the Benchmade Hidden Canyon. Well, first of all, I didn't pay full retail or anywhere close. I paid $163 for these two guys each at REI when they had them on sale. And the reason I say this is overpriced is because this is a very basic, literally least expensive steel. For example, a sheet of steel that you can probably stamp out 200 knives of this size out of is about $250 to $320. Depends on the source. And the sheet of S90V, it's a CPM product. You can only get it from one place, as opposed to 1095, can come from anywhere in the world. This steel only comes from one place. It's a Crucible Powder Metallurgy company. And the sheet of this steel, I'm going to say between $680 and $800 per sheet. So the price of the steel itself is triple of this knife. Then it comes standard with G10 grips, some accents. I don't care about that much. The warranty is about the same. And the other difference in price comes from how complicated is the heat treat process for this steel as compared to 1095. 1095 is extremely easy to heat treat. You can technically do it at home using a you can build your own heat treat oven out of fireplace liners and heat treat the steel. You can torch heat treat it, but I don't recommend it because of the complicated handle geometry that can cause some issues. So you would probably want to uniformly heat up the entire blade. But I digress, and I'm definitely not a heat treat expert. But I know enough to tell you that this process is extremely simple. They stamp out 200 knives out of a sheet of metal, and then they hang them on the racks, and that rack goes into a very simple heat treat oven that's open to the atmosphere. These guys are, first of all, stainless is a lot harder to stamp the sheet metal because it's so abrasive. And then it requires a special atmosphere to heat treat it, and an atmospheric furnace can cost a lot. If you buy one for treating 10 knives, it may cost you $25,000 to $50,000. But if you buy a continuous atmospheric furnace, it may cost you $500,000 and up. And here's an example of how it's done. And the reason is it's a very complicated. They have to evacuate the air, fill it with a specific atmosphere, and then it has to be pressurized, basically kind of like a submarine, while they heat treat. And then the computer runs the temperature, because with stainless you don't just go to one temperature and stay there. You go to one temperature, you stay there for a little while, then you go to another. I happen to have another Benchmade. This is my full fixed Adamas in Crewwear, which is heat treated 62 to 64 HRC, or 61 to 64. So it's not even crazy sharp right now. I haven't sharpened it in a while. And so I'm going to do the same to it. So we can all see if Rockwell hardness helps the knife. So I'm just putting and dragging it across like I did with the other Benchmade. I'm going to do 4 times and see what happens. And here's, grab a fresh piece of paper. Again, uninterrupted footage. So quartz will damage any edge. And even the hardest steel cannot stand up to ceramic, which is basically, quartz is a natural ceramic. 7 times. And you know, this stone does a good job pushing the burr. So really what happened there is when I dragged the blade across the stone, it basically rolled the edge to one side, or maybe even both sides. I don't know. The stone is uneven, so it could have gone either way. And let's see. I still feel a burr. Let me see if I can just lightly stroke it with a stone. So without using my trouser belt, it restored the edge enough to cut. So folks, stop saying that you can or cannot sharpen. You find the right kind of rock. You can sharpen any knife. You can dull any knife with a rock, and you can sharpen any knife with a rock. Probably sandstone wouldn't be a good example, but basalt, granite, quartz, marble, they will all damage your blade, and you can use all of them to restore your blade. So stop, repeating stuff that just makes no sense. Do I make sense? Sorry about that. Anyway, not trying to piss anybody off, just trying to make a video that keeps you informed.